Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation, the channel that brings you your team every day. A channel that is run by the fans for you, the fan. Guys, if you want your daily Rangers fix, then hit that sub, ring that notification bell. And if you can give the video a like for me, I would really appreciate it. Okay, so it's finally happened. It's finally done. The transfer deal that seemed to be, I don't know, going on for a little while. People on social media saying, God, Rangers like to pull out a transfer deal, don't they? Some people even alluding to the fact that maybe the King's coronation in Scotland held back the reveal of Cyriel Dessers as a Rangers player. There was even worry on social media earlier today that perhaps he'd failed a medical and something had gone wrong, and panic was starting to set in that it was all that effort was for absolutely nothing. Well, it isn't. There we go. There is Cyriel Dessers. There he is signing his Rangers contract. Well, signing a piece of paper that could be a contract. We don't really know. In a Rangers shirt. And for all of those of you out there who said, I won't believe a rumor until I see the player in a shirt with a scarf above his head. There's the photo, guys. There is your photo of him in a shirt with a scarf above his head. He even had his obligatory tour of the stadium, obviously going to the trophy room, seeing all the fantastic cups, trophies, shiny things that are in there. Must have taken him a long time to look around, obviously, as we are, of course, the most successful team in football. I think it was a deal that seemed to take a bit of time. I think it took a bit of getting over the line. When the club tweeted out about the deal, and it was tweeted out also by Fabrizio Romano, and you all know that when Fabrizio Romano tweets something, it's pretty much guaranteed to be true, isn't it? Fabrizio is certainly the man in the know. What I would love to see his contacts. His contacts on his phone must be exceptionally interesting as to who he knows and how he gets to know all these bits and pieces before any single other person. He really is Mr. Transfer Guru, isn't he? Certainly puts Jim White to shame, I think, in terms of what he can and can't find out. Cyriel Dessers obviously joins the club, undisclosed fee apparently, thought to be around about 5 million, 5.5 million euros, rising to around about 6.5 million euros with add-ons. It's around about what 4.5 million pounds for the player at time of recording. And obviously with time, obviously of the exchange rates as they stand at this moment in time. Well, Michael Beale had his say on the arrival of Cyriel Dessers. Obviously, fair credit to Michael Beale, who has been working exceptionally hard this summer, and even at times interrupting his own family holiday, hasn't he, to go off and sign players and talk on the phone. No doubt irritating his wife. We all know how our wives and partners hate us going on our phones, and certainly looking at the Rangers news and listening to Rangers podcasts when on holiday. Can you imagine how much Mrs. Beale must get irritated with Michael answering his phone or heading off to head up a delegation to try and sign a player? Certainly something that must annoy Mrs. Beale occasionally. Uh, well, Michael Beale has had his say. He says he's a player with a lot of experience playing in Holland, Belgium, and Italy, as well as in European competitions. We were looking for a very specific profile and believe that Cyriel will give us a variety of qualities both in and out of possession. At 28 years old, he is at a good age and will bring personality and leadership to our team. Now, what? Let's have a look at that quote from Michael Beale. Let's try and unpick and unpack that quote, just a little bit of what Michael had to say about this deal. A very specific profile. I think Michael has a very set way of what he wants to play. With the odd adaptation, I don't think he's a coach that he sticks fundamentally to one plan. I think as a coach, and we've always been told what a great coach he is. He has more than one plan. I think Michael Beale is a sort of coach who wants to be able to change things on the fly, change things during games, change things in the build up to games. And I think with Cyriel Dessers, he sees him as the sort of forward who can come in and do that. Whether he plays as a number 9, an out and out 9. We heard Adam Thornton on the podcast the other day talk about how he likes to roll his man and use his strength to get him behind, sort of like Morelos to some degree, but at the same time, he has the ability, the talent, the skill, be able to play as that split wide striker. Something else that Michael Beale seems to like. So I think there is, for me, a clear, I don't know, vision here to play in a couple of ways, depending obviously on the opponent, depending on the game situation, and depending on where we're at. And I certainly think that that's why Michael Beale has become interested in and obviously signed Cyriel Dessers. He talks as well about the fact that he brings personality, he brings leadership to the team. He isn't going to be one of those experienced players. And Michael Beale talked, didn't he, about wanting to bring in those veteran players, those leaders with a bit of experience. And automatically we all thought 32, 33, 34, 35-year-olds. So, but as Michael Beale clarified, he meant players with experience in a number of leagues, at the top of a number of leagues, which Dessers has, and playing in European competition, which again Dessers has. So it's interesting to see that he is here. He'll obviously now be able to fly out with Rangers to Germany, and will be there to play a part in the pre-season games and obviously in the Champions League qualifiers. Cyriel Dessers also has been having his say about his move. This is what Cyriel Dessers had to say. He talked about the size of the club, obviously, first of all. And that's what all signings seem to be. The first thing they all remark on, isn't it? The huge size of Glasgow Rangers. And he talked about it being a relief as well. A deal was finally done, because I guess for him as well, the uncertainty of his future, about where his future lay. Did it remain with Cremonese, or did it remain somewhere in Italy, as at one time was kind of alluded to? But certainly for me, yes, I suppose it would be a relief, to be able to join this great club of ours. He said there have been some long days and some stressful days, but it's a great feeling to finally be here. The history of the club, the fans, the stadium, it's massive. But next to that, I look at what is here at this moment. He then talks about his conversations with Michael Beale. And I think this is a big thing, isn't it, for the players that have been brought in this summer, for all the players that have come in, and we've got a bit of a list, and we'll talk about those shortly. It's all about that personality of Michael Beale, his ability to get in and talk to these players on a one-to-one basis, away from the football pitch and away from the club, taking away the pressure. So, well played, obviously, well played there. In terms with that one. He then goes on to say, I had really good talks with Michael Beale about his plans, his ideas of what he wants on and off the pitch, and I thought that could be a really good fit for me and for the team. It's interesting to see, obviously, Michael Beale one-to-one, like I said before, works really well. Michael Beale has persuaded Cyriel Dessers this is the club for him. He's clear in his vision. He's always talked about the fact that he likes to sit down and talk to a player, and this is what he's done again. And I think he's done fantastically this off season, and even going back to January, what he's done. If you look at the transfer deals that have been done since Michael Beale came in, he really is, going for that. That he talked about, he talked about managing last season's squad through to the end of the season, and then molding the team in his own image, and he seems to certainly be doing that. I know players talk about players departing, but as I talked about on the video, yesterday morning, that I talked about, obviously, the fact that again, I think the next couple of weeks we'll see Rangers getting rid of players like Glenn Kamara, for example, players like Scott Wright, players like Antonio Cholak, possibly moving on, and obviously creating some extra revenue for the club. But like I said, you look at Michael Beale's signings. Raskin 22, Cantwell 25, Dowell 25, Sterling 23, Butland 30, Lammers 26, Seamer 22, Cyriel Dessers 28. All 20 somethings, apart from obviously Butland, who's 30, but he's a keeper, so keepers have a slightly more longevity to their career. All signings that are going to come in, and hopefully, obviously, apart from I suppose what Butland and maybe Dessers, generate some income for us in the future if we so desire to sell our players for a big profit. So some solid signings, some good signings, and obviously some great signings. But look, Raskin and Campbell have been fantastic since they've come in. We get that. They've been absolutely amazing. But as for the other signings, look, I've been accused of being negative, I've been anti-Dessers, but like I said, the jury's out. Jury's out section. Yes, he did well in Feyenoord, but then he came over to Italy and struggled. So where is he at? Is this part of a longer term malaise, and perhaps is coming near to the end of his career? Perhaps not coming near the end of his career, but in terms of the fact that like I said, he's 28 years old. There's not very little reinvestment value. Strikers don't tend to last, greatly deeply into their 30s, with the odd exception. But Dessers, like I said, Dessers and Butland, perhaps the exception, but good signings nonetheless. But with all signings, it's a risk, isn't it? You never know, do you? You could pay 15, 20, 25 million for a player and then be an utter disaster. And at the same time, you could pay a million for a player and he'd be absolutely fantastic for the club. So there is no rhyme or reason to it. There is no kind of formula to picking a player. You can take your punt on what you see, in terms of, on the training pitch, on the field. But we've all got, I think, just wait and see how these guys do. We'll see a bit of them in pre-season, no doubt, as well as obviously then the Champions League qualifiers and the first game of the season. So looking forward to the new season, looking forward to seeing these new guys out on the field. Now, one player whose name is continually still linked with Rangers is Danilo. Danilo of Feyenoord. Now, there's been a few developments on this story. Now, yesterday we talked about the fact that, and I very much took on the theory, and I'd still say that this is the way it is. We'd have to sell before we buy any more forwards. But according to a number of media sources this morning, Sunderland are still in negotiations with Feyenoord. They had an initial £3.5 million bid turned down. They now have gone back in with a secondary bid. It does appear that Danilo is very much on their radar. It does appear that they want to sign him. They want to get him into the club as soon as possible. That's what is being reported. He is a good player. He is a quality player for me. He's someone who will add to this team if we can get him over the line. But like I said, I personally genuinely think that if he's going to come in, it will be after we've shifted somebody out, on either on loan or on a permanent basis, as Michael Beale seems to seeks to trim the squad, whilst obviously maintaining a good level of competition within the team. But certainly interesting that the Rangers appear to still be tracking Danilo, and the negotiations are ongoing, according to a number of different media sources in Holland. So fair play to them, fair play to Rangers, fair play for what they've done. I think Danilo would be a great deal. I think he'd be a good signing. I think he would really add something different to Dessers. He's a bit quicker than him. He's younger than him, obviously. He's obviously got a full range of skills, been Brazilian. So will it get done? I think it could, but I don't think it's going to be done anytime soon. I think it's more likely a little bit later in the window, or obviously once we ship out a player or two from that forward line. That I think is the more likely scenario for me in the case, obviously, in this case of Danilo. So, Rangers have added yet another signing today. That's kind of the real yesterday. It's kind of the big news, isn't it? And if you just for a minute take off Raskin and Cantwell, that's 6 signings, 6 summer signings so far. And I think there does promise to be more signings for Rangers. For example, I know that Jose Cifuentes is still very much on the club's radar. Situation was slightly complicated the other day by the fact that obviously he played for LAFC against LA Galaxy, in front of that record crowd in the MLS. So I do think if I've got to say, realistically, I think there will be more players to come in. I think Cifuentes and Panzo are both very high on Michael Beale's shopping list. I think you probably could see somewhere between 8 and 10 players through the door before the transfer window slams shut. Well, guys, let me know what you think of the Dessers deal and obviously of the possible deal for Danilo. And is there anyone you think that, anyone in the current squad that who you think that we should sell? Who are the players that you want to see shipped out as this transfer window progresses, and who's your top star for who you reckon has had the biggest season from that list of players who have joined the club this summer. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, the channel that brings you your team every single day. Please remember to hit that sub, ring that notification bell, and if you give the video a like, I would really appreciate it. And I need you to do one thing for me, guys, one thing only. I need you to remember we are the people.